I know what a promise from a coach feels like. In this league, trust is everything. It's the currency we trade in. It's the invisible thread that holds a locker room together when the pressure is on and the world is watching. A coach looks you in the eye and tells you, "I've got your back. I know your game. I'm going to put you in a position to succeed." That promise is a sacred bond. And I've been in locker rooms where that bond holds. And I've been in ones where it shatters. I'm telling you right now, what's happening in Indiana is the sound of that bond being utterly destroyed. When the Indiana Fever hired Stephanie White, it wasn't just a coaching move, it was a story. It was a promise sold to the fans, to the franchise, and most importantly, to Caitlin Clark. Here was the broadcaster who had a front-row seat to the Caitlin Clark phenomenon in college. She called the games, she analyzed the plays, she supposedly had the secret blueprint to unlocking a generational talent in the pros. The promise was not just for a good coach, it was for the perfect coach, a seamless, synergistic fit that would ignite the league. But I'm here to tell you, that promise was a lie. It has been broken, betrayed, and replaced with a painful reality that is wasting the most precious resource in our sport, a superstar's prime. Stick with me, because I'm going to show you the truth that only someone who has lived it can see. This isn't about stats. This is about betrayal. Let's start with the most obvious lie: the style of play. I've seen coaches try to fit a square peg into a round hole my entire career. But this is something else entirely. Stephanie White came in and spoke about wanting to play with a faster pace. Everyone heard it. It was the right thing to say. You have Caitlin Clark, a player whose basketball DNA is encoded with transition, court vision, and pushing the tempo. You have Kelsey Mitchell, one of the quickest guards in the league. You have Aaliyah Boston, a big who can run the floor. The promise was a fast-paced, electrifying offense built around your superstar's greatest strengths. So what did we get? A slow, grinding, half-court offense that looks like it's stuck in mud. When you're a player, and your coach tells the media and the team that the goal is to run, but every practice, every play call forces you to slow down, it does something to your mind. It creates a deep, corrosive distrust. You start asking yourself, is the coach lying to them, or are they lying to me? The numbers back it up. When the Fever push the pace, they are elite. When they slow it down to White's preferred tempo, they become painfully average. This isn't a coaching adjustment. It's a coach actively going against what works, a direct contradiction of her own stated philosophy. It's the first and most fundamental act of betrayal, but it gets so much more personal than that. Do you remember early in the season when they moved Caitlin Clark off the ball? Let me translate what that feels like for a player of her caliber. You are the single greatest playmaker of your generation. You led the league in assists as a rookie because your gift is seeing the entire floor and conducting the offense like a maestro. And the coach who was hired specifically because she knew your game decides to take the ball out of your hands and stick you in the corner to wait for a pass. It's not just a bad tactical decision, it's an insult. It's a power play. It's a coach sending a message that her system is more important than your talent. That one move shattered the illusion that this was a partnership. It revealed that this was about control, and Caitlin's generational ability was something to be managed, not unleashed. When the X's and O's don't make sense, you start looking for answers in people. You look at body language. I've spent thousands of hours on benches and in huddles, and I can read a player's soul by the way they sit during a timeout. Early in the season, you saw Caitlin engaged, leaning in, asking questions. Now, watch the tape. She's staring at the floor, arms crossed, with a look of pure frustration on her face. That is the look of a player who has stopped believing. That is the look of a player who feels utterly betrayed by the person who is supposed to be their leader. It's the moment you realize the advice you're getting isn't designed to help you win. It's just noise. When you lose your superstar's heart and mind in the huddle, you've lost the team. And the team knows it. That's why you see this incredible paradox happening. The players are building their own leadership structure because the official one has failed them. Look at Sophie Cunningham. When she got ejected defending Caitlin back in March, her message was crystal clear. Come at Caitlin and you deal with me. On the surface, it's a teammate having another's back. But in the context of a locker room with a leadership vacuum, it was something more. It was a player stepping up to provide the protection that the coaching staff wasn't. It was a public declaration of loyalty, not to the system, but to the person the system was failing. That's real chemistry. That's loyalty. The narrative some channels push about a toxic locker room is a joke. They blame players who have been on injured reserve for months, like Sydney Colson and Ari McDonald. How can players not even in the building be the source of toxicity? The truth is, the core of this team is tight. They are loyal to each other. When Caitlin used her first pick in the All-Star draft on Aaliyah Boston and flat out refused to entertain trades for her, that was another message. She is building her own foundation of trust with the people on the floor with her. Because the trust she was supposed to have with her coach is gone. A coach's promise isn't just to the star player, it's to every single person on that roster. And when crisis hit, that promise was broken for everyone. When Colson and McDonald went down with those devastating season-ending injuries, the team lost its veteran guard leadership in one horrific night. That's the moment a great coach adapts. They elevate new voices. They change their communication. They rally the troops and show them a new path forward. A coach you trust finds a way. What did we see from Stephanie White? Nothing. She failed to adjust, leaving young players without guidance and creating a void that bred the very confusion people mistake for drama. Then there's the timeouts. Oh, the timeouts. Every fan sees it, but as a player, you feel it in your bones. You're on a run. The momentum is building. You've got the other team on their heels, and then your own coach calls a timeout and kills your rhythm stone dead. Or worse, the other team is on a 10-0 run. Your team is completely lost, and your coach just sits there, letting you drown. It feels like sabotage. It feels like your leader doesn't understand the flow of the game, or worse, doesn't care. In a crucial game against Dallas, she held on to a timeout until there were 1.7 seconds left, completely compromising the final play. That's not a mistake. It's a pattern of failure that tells every player on that bench that they are on their own. And that brings us to the heart of it all. The deepest, most painful part of this betrayal. Stephanie White wasn't just any coach. She was sold as the Caitlin Clark whisperer. Her time as a broadcaster was her entire resume for this job. The promise was that she, more than anyone, understood what made Clark a generational force. That was the reason. That was the hope. That was the bond that was supposed to make it all work. And that is the promise she has completely, utterly destroyed. That unique knowledge wasn't used to build a system around Caitlin's strengths. It was ignored in favor of a rigid, slow, ineffective system that has actively diminished them. This isn't about inexperience. Stephanie White is a former WNBA Coach of the Year. She knows how to coach in this league, which makes what's happening now so much worse. This feels calculated. This feels like a coach trying to prove that her system is the star. Even at the expense of the actual star she was hired to elevate. It's an ego-driven betrayal that is costing this team everything. And don't let a playoff berth fool you. Making the playoffs in an expanded league is not the goal. Winning a championship is the goal. This team is succeeding in moments, in spite of the coaching, not because of it. That playoff spot is just a flimsy bandage on a deep, infected wound of broken trust. It doesn't change the fact that the promise has been broken. The person who was supposed to be her biggest advocate has become her biggest obstacle. She must be fired. It is the only way to honor the real promise the franchise made to Caitlin Clark. The promise of a chance to win. So where does this leave them? The trust is gone. The promise is a memory. A player can only endure so much frustration, so much wasted potential. The clock is ticking. The 2026 expansion draft is looming, a reminder that the league is always changing and player power is growing. How long can a generational talent stay in a situation where she feels so profoundly betrayed? The question is no longer if Stephanie White can fix this. The question is, how much damage will she do before the franchise stops her? How long before this betrayal costs the Indiana Fever not just a season, but the superstar who was supposed to define their future? Because I promise you, there are other teams, other coaches who would know exactly what to do with a talent like Caitlin Clark. And that broken promise might be the very thing that pushes her to find one of them.